I'm theater of the minding.
Honestly, I'm not too terribly worried
talk.
about it, Lilith. I, if
Okay.
if we go into any sort of combat, like I don't even necessarily know we'll go into combat this session. I imagine if we do, then something probably went horribly wrong, and I'm pulling a lot of shit out of my ass. But depending on, I don't necessarily foresee us going into combat, but who knows?
Hey,
Fair enough.
we're going. So for those of you who are just tuning in, Lilith, who plays the illustrious Ember, is on a boat on her goddamn way to goddamn Japan. I'm not salty.
I'm
or
on a
or
boat.
jealous at all.
But we're not bitter about that being stuck in northern Minnesota.
As it is actively snowing right
Mm-hmm.
now. So, Brian, you take it away. I'm going to step away and deal with some stuff.
Welcome back, everybody, to the further adventures of the intrepid crew, the Berezaya Argia. Where we last left off, our aforementioned crew, with the help of the Klashtar Adanashti, who is propelled their psyches, for lack of a better term, or their souls, into the soul prison that the Dreaming Dark had used to basically entrap Zaya's soul, or essence. And there fought a horrible quarry spirit named Dream Reaper, because that's always lovely, as basically it kept trying to latch on to Zaya as a kind of a possessed host. Ultimately, you did manage to defeat and destroy said creature, and break Zaya out of the prison, and really the last moments from the last adventure were pretty much a tearful cuddle pile reunion of everybody, and kind of a celebration in general over the fact that that Zaya is indeed returned. And broken out of said prison. And so that's kind of where we're going to start things, actually, is admittedly the going into the prison, or this soul prison, and fighting the evil quarry spirit has taken its toll, as you do feel your bodies, especially those of you who are injured, is just kind of racked with some pain and soreness. Some of you who may have been hit by lightning before could almost feel it being akin to sort of like being electrocuted, where, you know, when you're kind of zapped and all your muscles are just in that semi-tightened state, and then when you're able to finally let go or whatnot, that it feels like you've worked your entire body over. So there's definitely some injuries, some soreness, but you are all alive. You've survived the saving Zaya from the soul prison. In fact, you see its shattered shards kind of laying at Zaya's feet, as I believe there was pretty much a hug pile. And with that being said, everyone is relieved. There is a lot but everyone is admittedly exhausted. For those of you that are here at this point, I guess, is there anything special you'd like to do for the evening, or would you pretty much just like to kind of rest and recoup at this point?
Mine's probably resting, recouping, and staying very, very, very close to Zaya.
Okay.
I kind of Yeah, I kind of want to stay next to Zaya as well. I think maybe a sleepover with everybody in one group.
Oh, Puddle?
Okay. And that's easy enough to do. Zaya does make mention, looking also very exhausted and haggard, um, mention that she needs to get back to the ship in order to be able to actually kind of recuperate.
Well, I suppose.
Before we do that, Barca grabs a shard of the broken soul shard or something like that, whatever's left over in the husk on the ground, and just grabs one piece and ties a piece in his hair.
Okay.
Fuck.
All
Does
right.
the shards of the soul prison, does it look like, is it that same deep crystal?
It is, but it no longer has any. So, like, you know how some of your shards of the deep crystal seem to have almost like a little bit of its own sort of internal glow, kind of similar to what you see with like a dragon shard, where there's a little, almost a little bit of a swirly pattern to it. Deep crystal has a lot of very similar features in that regard, and even kind of gives off just a little bit of light, like not a huge amount. Maybe, you know, like the shard on your staff maybe gives the light off equivalent to maybe like a candle. You know, so not a huge amount, but you know there's usually a little glimmer involved, whereas all the shards that make up the prison, the soul prison, soul vault, are just lifeless, like no glow, just they're effectively just shards of crystal.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, Coke gets added. Yep. All right,
Then, if you are, unless there's anything else you want to do, then we will, just to kind of expedite things a little bit, move to the next day. There is a good solid snuggle pile as far as people goes. Probably ends up maybe being Amaya's room, truthfully. Is probably one of the larger rooms on the ship. The goblins have gone through their drill procedures for the ship. They've rang the bell, as you heard, and taken care of everything. When your group does arrive back at the ship, you do see that there are. Well, you see the goblins are kind of dancing around, and you actually see Nikali is giving this huge kind of bear hug to Kaladin, who is looking really awkward at the fact that he's kind of being lifted up off the ground by this drow. But you do see that on the looks like on the railings and even kind of on the deck, you see a couple of little, just small little flowers starting to kind of bloom a little bit.
That's so cute.
love it.
And you see Costello just kind of sitting there, just kind of standing pretty stoic, not really knowing what's going on.
So we get a long rest.
Everybody retires for the evening and gets a long
I say
rest.
desperately.
Dear God, yes, thank you. If you'll allow it, Game Maestro, I would like to have grabbed one of the shards of crystal as well.
Easily done.
Thank you.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Send shards all around.
I would. I actually will. I would like to gather the rest of the shards.
Okay.
Just like sweep them and put them in my bag.
The Kalashtar.
All right, where the?
You notice there are a couple of Kalashtar that look at you very oddly when you do that. However, Adanashti just kind of looks without looking, sort of kind of looks over in your general direction, then just kind of gestures to the rest of them to, that it's kind of gives the okay, so to speak, and allows you to collect the shards.
I very much notice that. If I may.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just used to Rian and noticing everything because that's,
Absolutely.
what we do.
You are a very perceptive person.
The next morning at breakfast, I spend about 10 minutes just giving everybody a very inspirational speech about how awesome we were yesterday. Everybody takes 17 temporary hit points.
Okay.
Well, what's going to happen? But we're going to do it.
And when
Trying
you
to figure out how to do D&D Beyond on mobile. This is interesting.
Oh, I feel that in my soul.
That's
okay.
fair.
Okay. I'm good.
When you wake up, now there's still like your crew is there. There are still some Kalashtar helping as far as guarding the ship. Just there in case there's any sort of issues, but they tend to, for the most part, I mean, they tend to kind of keep to themselves. Like, they don't really interfere with your guys' operations of the ship as far as any sorry, brain hurts words. Any different procedures that you may need to do or things of that nature. And after your rousing speech, you do actually see, kind of on the top deck, you do see Callan kind of approach. And
Sorry, I was like mid really loud chew. We see who approached.
Callan, he's the
Yeah.
the Kalashtar that trained Narashti.
Formerly Kalantosh, yeah.
Yes. And you see
Is that like dead naming the poor guy? Like, do they? I don't want to be an ass.
So the trick with the Kalashtar is that the last part of their, so the majority of the Kalashtar, their names are typically one name, and the end of the name is kind of the name of the Kalashtar.
The name of the Quarry Spirit, yeah.
The Quarry Spirit.
Which was Tosh for.
Yeah, didn't we have that discussion with him last session?
So my question is not. So that's not my question. It's more of like a.
Oh.
Like is it seen as
just a general
bad thing to refer to him as Kalantosh when he's no longer Kalantosh? He's just Callan now. Would that be seen as like insensitive by the Kalashtar?
I don't. It's not necessarily meant to be insensitive.
Watch, I will have documented that in my notes last time.
From what you kind of get with your insight, Miss Inquisitive, it's not meant to be derogatory. If anything, you notice that the Klashtar are kind of saddened about it, um, and maybe kind of pity him a little bit in that regards. Not that anyone would necessarily do it to his face, because he's kind of a go-getter. He's got kind of very much a go-getter alpha mentality in that regards. But it's
I
granted.
get the sense
Yeah.
that continuing to call him by the kind of previous full name would be kind of like addressing somebody who's no longer there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a better sense of it.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I mean, when you're dealing with a society that has basically been raised where you share your body with there are two souls in one body, and everyone can speak their thoughts to each other. You get a sense that in a lot of ways to put it in broad strokes, Klashtar in general tend to be fairly empathic, just because if that's the society you come from, like you're I mean, granted, those that are more of the shadow hunter bent, like Amaya was and Katari were raised to be, are probably trained more to hide some of that stuff a little bit. But even then, when you're among your own people, so to speak, in this particular case, it's usually much more of a calming, sort of comforting factor as far as the kind of Klashtar society in general. I mean, there are outliers, Amaya's parents, but
Yeah.
in general, that's what you've experienced so far with the time you've spent with the Klashtar as a community, both in Sharn and now in Adar. But you see Callan approach, and it's like, when you are ready and available, Adonashti was hoping to invite those of you who wish to attend, and Zaya, if to meet with her to discuss to discuss what comes next, whatever that may be.
What do you mean, what comes next?
Well, Zaya's future, I imagine. In the future, nothing. Sorry, I realize you've been through a lot, and it would probably be best if Adonashti spoke with you all in this regards. But just to let you know, you are invited. If you haven't had your breakfast yet, we do have a meal. It's it's okay. I will say one thing about traveling abroad is it definitely expands the palate. At any rate, if you have any questions, or if you want a guide, ask one of the brethren here. They'd be happy to escort you if you're if you need help getting through the caves, although you've been here for a little bit now, so it's I got to get back to some of my duties, but if you have any questions or whatnot, and you see he kind of leaves it at that. You get kind of the sense he's not really a one for a lot of words.
But the ones he chose
are indeed words. Anyway.
They're very word-like words.
Once Callan departs, and we don't have.
Does he leave, or is he waiting for us?
No, he heads back to the.
Okay.
He heads back to the temple.
I am getting real sick of people planning our future for us.
How do we want to play this? I don't
think Abanashti is going to have. Genuinely think she's going to have ours and Zaya's best interests at heart, but ultimately it's going to come down to what we want to do.
I don't think she'll have our
Well, just because she has her best interests at
sorry,
heart.
I have Adanashti listed as they them pronouns.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't think Adanashti is focused on us. I think they're focused on their people and what the needs of their people are. I don't think they intend us any harm, but I also don't think that they're going to hesitate to do what they need to in order to survive. I don't know.
Why do they want Zaya?
Well, it's really, really rare for another quarry spirit to come into the world. And that means more Kalashtar, I guess. I don't fully understand it, but...
So, okay, here's how I understand it, buddy. You know how you have a little voice in the back of your head? Yours probably sounds a bit like Riri.
Oh no.
There's voices in my head.
You know, when you're about to do something that is really crazy and there's something in your head that says stop and it kind of sounds like Riri talking at you?
Usually, because it is me talking at you.
There's nothing inside my head that says stop, but I do hear Riri, audibly. That's a big word.
Okay, that's fair. It's like that, but in your head. And that's what Zaya represents. Why do I try? Why do I try?
So wait.
Yeah, I was like, this is what is love all over again.
Zaya. So you're saying Zaya is the voice in people's head?
Zaya could be the voice in people's heads. But Zaya is her own person, and we really want to keep her that way.
I thought we only got that ability since we were captains of the ship.
Well,
the important thing, I think the important thing right now, buddy.
Goddamn goblins.
Ember, can you please keep the goblins under control?
You see,
I can only do so much.
You see Wanda, Tulio, and 3 Lila have these little bells that are different sizes, and they ring them.
Yeah, that's why they come in. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they're coordinated well.
Well, they've been practicing all night, so I mean,
It's true. Buddy, the important thing is that no matter what, we want Zaya to stay with us, and we want Zaya to stay with Amaya, and we want to stay together as a family, and not everybody's going to want that, even if what they want isn't also a bad thing. It doesn't have to be bad, the crazy person we fought, but...
In my Embarca's experience. Chains are chains, and prisons are prisons. I think it's up to Zaya to decide what she wants to do.
I think you're right.
Absolutely.
We're
Which
going
I
into this
think is
blind.
why it's important that we go listen to Avanashti, because they are going to provide another option, potentially, than what we can.
What are chances that if Zaya decides that Zaya doesn't want to go with their plan, that they're not going to be happy about that, and we will be in a bad, fight, because Barca will fight.
As will we all if it comes to it. I don't think it likely they'll try to force us, because they'll likely end up causing more harm to their own cause than good. But I would be ready just in case.
I mean, they have seen some of the things, at least, that we can do. And it's
Some, not all.
some, but more to the point of they've seen some of the things that we can do. We went in and brought Zaya back. Can guarantee you they've not seen that before, or at least not to that extent. So I don't think. I think they would think twice before trying to fight us, but manipulate. That's
Yeah.
something that
Might put us under a contract or some bullshit
I-
like that.
Want so desperately to be wrong about all of this. The paranoia, the suspicion, but
We've
every
seen too
single
much
turn,
shit.
every single turn we have made has brought some new, fresh
hell.
obstacle on our path. So, all right.
Hopefully this is an ally rather than another adversary. I would very much rather have them as allies.
I mean, but the question still remains, where the fuck are we going?
That's an excellent question. We could always go rescue Argentia.
I feel like that should be our next priority.
I'm not sure how long it's actually been in game, but it has been a little while since our magical item commissions were dropped off. We could see how they are progressing, and if perhaps we
Well,
may
we've
have
got
some
to be
new items to
careful
pick up.
about going into the anywhere in Corvair with all of the war and the missing ships and all of the things.
Just to give you an idea here, like the items
They weren't commissioned all that long ago.
that you commissioned
No, they weren't.
are effectively like
Also,
legendary-ish items.
Right.
And even with paying a little bit extra to try to expedite that as best as they can, they are still going to take some time, as in general...
Sure.
Let's see here. In general, crafting a magic item of, say, legendary quality is... Oh, where is it here? Maybe it's in Xanathar's. It's a timely process, and you've only...
I mean, I genuinely don't know how much time has elapsed in game
right now.
So
yeah, I don't know how long it's been, but I have 23 weeks for my commissioned item.
Yes, and we'll call it... Let's see, you had a bit of downtime in Olaroon. It was about 3 weeks worth. Assuming you guys went fairly early to commission, It's only been about 2, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's
Right,
still a bit
so
of
we have
time
9 weeks.
in
got
terms
14
of
weeks.
when those might be available. So yes, there's still going to be some time.
Okay.
To answer your question real quickly, Barca, yes, it was explained to you that Argentia had to. When Argentia left, they were escorted back to Arganessen for reasons.
Fair enough. Were those the words used? Did Barca understand? Escorted.
Technically, Barca wasn't. Well, you weren't. I believe you weren't in the session, so we tried to gloss it over.
Perfect, no problem.
If I remember correctly.
Riri would have explained to Barca.
Very, very well. Yep, I agree.
I do remember that we had Riri talk to you.
Yes.
I remember.
Tracks.
Oh, Gavin and I are barred from explaining shit to you.
I just found it in the notes that Gavin was pointing out to Rhiannon that she needed to talk to Barca.
Yeah, I do remember that. But I know I was gone a little bit, so I was like, I don't know if the conversation actually happened.
I don't think like we RP'd it out, but it would have happened in game.
Perfect.
Yeah,
it would have happened. Yeah.
Because I think Rhiannon found out when you guys were pursuing the airship that had captured Ember.
Yeah. Not quite, but yeah.
Well.
Yes, because we were. Yeah, because we were north of Arganessen. We were north of Arganessen, and I was like, "Oh shit, Arganessen." Hey, Arganessen.
It was right before the pirate guy showed up.
Yeah, right before the captain showed up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yes, it would have been explained to Barca.
So right now, just to let you know, it is the 20. God, it's really hard to read the numbers here. Let's see.
Can't see the numbers.
Well, because it when you print it, it makes the numbers tiny. It's like the 24th of Eyre, E-Y-R-E. I'm gonna pronounce it Eyre because why not? Or ear. So it's about the 4th month in. So in Corvarian terms, it would be kind of end of winter, beginning of spring, give or take. Not that you can really tell in Adar, where up in the mountains it's cold and blustery and windy, and down below in the valleys it's almost kind of tropical.
That's right, because Eyre is basically March.
April, kind of. Yeah. If Zarentir is January, then it would be like April. So you have been... This group, in-game, has been running around for about 4 months.
Pieces.
Right?
Been a busy 4 months, y'all.
Y'all have done a lot.
It's been a busy and long 4 months.
Contextually, for those watching, we started playing this game off stream in 2019.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been a long 4 months.
Early 2019, I believe.
Yeah, I think we started around January-ish.
January.
So we've had 3 years.
We wanted to start at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm.
when
I
we
don't
went
know.
into lockdown for COVID, since we were going to be doing everything over Zoom anyway, I'm like, fuck it, let's just stream it. So here we are.
Voila.
4 years. God, I can't math. It's been a long time. We've been playing a long time.
It
I know.
has, and they haven't got tired of me yet, so I count that as a win. But I digress. So, unless you guys have anything else you want to do beforehand, I'm assuming you'll head over to meet with Adanashti.
Yes, I think that's the plan.
Yep.
Okay.
One sec. I wanna. Since she is a quarry spirit, does she already have advantage on like her wisdom saves?
Let's find out, because we put stats and stuff. I think I did give. I think she has advantage on wisdom saves like a Kalashtar. I think.
Okay.
Let me double check. It's been a while.
It's not even Exandria.
Yes. She, as a similar to a Kalashtar, she has dual mind and mental discipline, and then the mind link. Although hers is a little bit modified as far as the mind link, being anyone that's touching the ship you can communicate with. But like the advantage on wisdom saving throws and resistance to psychic damage.
Mm-hmm. I will wait until we are like entering the temple.
Okay.
Or like getting to wherever we're supposed to actually be meeting at Adashti. I'm assuming the temple.
Yes.
And like as we're going in, I want to just touch Zaya and cast protection from evil and good.
Okay.
Because it lasts for 10 minutes and makes it so that she can't be possessed, just in case.
Good call. So Zaya does kind of assume her dryad form as far as joining you with this. I will say overnight the ship has repaired itself. Effectively her long rest, as it were. In fact, you do notice that that the ship was actually floating just slightly above the river water a little bit when you woke up in the morning.
Barkit kind of just peeks over the side to see if there's like a missing tendril.
The tendril that was torn off is still laying kind of off the side of on the riverbank, or kind of jammed up on some rocks. So it's kind of partly on the riverbank, partly in the river, and it still looks like a dead tree limb. But you see where it ripped off. You see this little kind of sprout.
Ah, fair enough.
But it's kind of, for the ship, it's kind of stubby, like it's maybe only like 5 feet. So it doesn't have that sort of kind of drooping willow quality to it yet. It's still kind of just more like a tree limb, a little sturdier. But with that said, you travel back to the temple area. You do see that the Kalashtar that are in the courtyard, either doing their meditations or training, do kind of stop and take. You see they take in the group as it approaches, and you notice they are kind of watching Zaya with a bit of I'd say almost kind of like awe or reverence, like they're smiling and just kind of taken that now they're, that she's she's here and in good health, as opposed to how she was yesterday. And so just you see even some of the Clash Star children, they'll approach and then kind of like run up, stop short, and then just kind of sit there for a second, and then you see Zaya will kind of like wave, and then they kind of like, and then immediately kind of run off and hide and whatnot, and you get a sense that there's maybe some of that mental communication going back and forth that Kalash Tar are known for, but
if she'll let me, I'll just kind of casually link my non-staff arm through one of Zaya's arms, just like that, making it obvious that I'm like ready to kick some ass, but things have just gone from bad to worse every time anything has happened to us. So like, okay, we've had a good thing happen. What's about to fall from the sky?
That's fair. I'm assuming
Right
as far as
kids.
for the ship, I'm assuming you're probably leaving like Costello and Nikali and the goblins back with the ship.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Okay. Katari is joining you. Oh, Rhiannon, your bestest friend ever.
Hey, but she didn't try to kill me while I was, in like the dream world or whatever.
She was so ready to do it if she had to.
She would have been so happy to kill me. It's fine.
Upon seeing the children, Ember will kind of crouch down and cast dancing lights and send them after the children, like playfully, not threateningly.
And you see the kids are just running, giggling bundles of chaos being chased by the lights. You see there is a Kalashtar, an older Kalashtar, probably kind of in that borderline between sort of middle-aged and elderly, if you were to give it a descriptive term, that kind of looks at you with sort of a disapproving like, but mainly because you realize that they're kind of the cat herder for the children when the children are out in the courtyard running around, and so you've now made their job just a little more stressful than it was like 10 minutes ago.
I'd blow them a kiss and send a dancing light their way.
But you see Barca join in with the kids following the lights.
Okay.
Yep.
I love it. And Ember, I would say, go ahead and make a intuition or insight roll.
Insight?
Is it insight, intuition? I forget what it's called
Insight.
nowadays. I'm getting so much stuff mixed. Insight.
It's insight, yeah.
So
I
many
do that a
different
lot.
editions in your head.
I know, right?
Oh God, I should not be rolling on the fucking app. 5.
I've only been playing D&D since AD&D second edition, so I've only got 3 or 4 versions, not counting Pathfinder in my head.
All right, I'm breaking out some dice.
Okay, so you're just kind of doing your Ember thing. It's no big deal. So you do head into the temple, and you see Callan kind of waves and sort of gestures you over to kind of the area that you were at before, where you saw where Adanashti was teaching the children, kind of that So it's technically not in the temple. It's just kind of one of the buildings off to the side, but it's kind of Adanashti's sort of study slash schoolroom, for lack of a better term. And there's some, kind of delightful incense burning a little bit. There's a lot of pillows and cushions. It's definitely more of a kind of sit on the ground or sit on cushions on the ground kind of thing. And you see Adanashti, who was kind of sitting sort of cross-legged, gets up and is like, welcome all of you. I'm so glad to see you all here, especially you, my dear, and offers her hands to Zaya. And you see Zaya kind of still with arm in arm with you, Rhiannon, but kind of, offers her one hand and sort of kind of, shakes it kind of. It's like, please, have a seat. I do have some tea and some sweet treats. You see they're kind of like little scony kind of things, except like probably smaller, like mini quiche sized, for lack of a better term.
I snag 2 before Barker grabs them all.
I'll sit, yeah, and I'm happily grabbing some cinnamon done.
Okay.
I will hand the other one to Rhiannon.
Yes.
You do see it is just Adanashti. Well, actually, it's Adanashti, and then you do see Callan is kind of does kind of poke his head in and but manages kind of does that kind of the.
He's lurking.
He's lurking. Yeah, he's doing that brooding edgelord thing that he does. That for him and his ness seems to work, but
Rhiannon will like smile at him and give him a wink, like, yeah, I see you lurking.
And he just kind of grins at that, maybe a little blushing. I wanted I wanted to where to begin. First and foremost, I am so glad that you were able to rescue young Zaya here. And while there were many celebrations in your honor, so to speak, as far as at least as much as we do in our way, I appreciate you coming back here so that we may have an open and frank discussion with you, with all of you, as it were.
Ember stiffens at those words.
Rhiannon does not visibly react because she's schooled for this, but like it's kind of like the internal like, yup, yeah, this was coming.
Ember does not like the way that was phrased.
May I ask what your... Well, now that Zaya is back, may I ask, or from her imprisonment, may I ask what your plans are for the future?
We gotta save the dragon.
Oh. Oh, there's a dragon?
There is.
Yeah, we had a dragon with us for a short time. Goes by Tia. Kind of sweet. But they got press ganged into some sort of duty, service, whatever. We're gonna go save them.
I see.
They wish to leave, but they're not being allowed to. Wow, that seems like a bit of a theme with us, doesn't it?
Yep.
Right?
Why do you ask?
Well, we wanted to have a discussion with you regarding Zaya. Um, you are her guardians, and we wish to be we're concerned for her safety. I mean, as what has happened recently has shown us that that there are dangers abounding, especially with the Dreaming Dark hunting her. And while you are all very, very potent in your own regards, we're worried that the might of the Dreaming Dark is, well, as I imagine maybe Amaya or perhaps Katari can attest, the Dreaming Dark is powerful and very insidious in its regards to to Kalashtar as a whole, let alone well, Zaya in this case. I don't we
Look, we all know the score here. What is it you want?
Gavin develops a very she said it, not me face. I don't know what that
Rhiannon
looks like
still has her
precisely, but
diplomatic
like,
face on, but
just no insight check necessary. I'm
Thank
just very
God.
much she said it, not me. It was
Maya says, and Gavin just like instinctively claps his hand over his mouth and went, "Oh wait, no, that what didn't come out of my mouth. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe."
I understand your bond with Zaya. A very potent one, a very primal one, a very maternal one. I appreciate that. But I'm curious, and so I understand where some of your mistrust can be placed in from those regards. But do you understand? Well, perhaps maybe you don't understand fully what Zaya means to all of us, our people.
Perhaps you should explain.
I don't think you realize what she means to us. I think you have an inkling.
You've seen that we're willing to go to some extreme and incredibly dangerous lengths to protect her, to get her back. You've seen a small fraction of the things that we're capable of.
I think.
So I'm not sure why you think that we can't keep her safe, or why that is really any of your business. No offense meant.
Parker still wants to hear answer to Amaya's question. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it's best if I explain this way. When the rebel quarry, the I think it was 67 of us, if I get that number right. I might be wrong on the math. We'll say 67 for now. When the 67 rebel quarry spirits originally fled Dalcor, we were... we fled out of desperation. We fled out of a small sliver of hope that there was something better than the nightmarish realm that we were trapped in. And admittedly, when we bonded with the first humans to effectively create how we are now, well, it was through, some would say, sheer dumb luck that as our hosts at the time, as they started to procreate, that the quarry spirits were able to disseminate among them, spreading among them, and creating, again, what we are today. And that brought us hope that at least we may be able to survive, as much as our struggles have been dealing with the Dreaming Dark and the Inspired. But the hope that, and that's where our hope stayed, to be quite honest, in that we were able to find a place to survive, to carve out a place that, while granted we had to fight for, and still do, that we have a chance of surviving, of perpetuating as a species. And then one day Zaya came along.
Yeah.
A brand new quarry spirit. Or brand new yet also a very old quarry spirit. Had entered into the world. And that hope sprung anew. I understand your mistrust from what few things Narashti has told me, as well as your personal, what trials you've been willing to discuss with me and whatnot. I understand that you've been through many harrowing ordeals, and I congratulate you for your survival. I understand developments like that, though, can breed some mistrust. I realize my words alone may not necessarily be enough to assuage your fears, but we seek no harm to Zaya. In fact, I would say, if anything, we wish to protect her.
Rhiannon kind of smirks at the "we seek no harm to Zaya." Insight check.
Same.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh shit, I didn't get dice out. Ah! We're not rolling with...
Barca kind of leans over to Gavin or gets close to him. Did they answer question yet? I'm trying to listen for voice in back ahead saying that they answered question, but it doesn't feel like they've answered question.
They haven't, buddy.
Gavin will, in a very much a stage whisper.
That's not what I wanted.
Very much a stage whisper will respond. She has not said exactly what she wants from us.
Hey,
Sorry,
Okay.
they have not said exactly what they want from us. Although I think they just want Zaya.
Back
20
at Gavin.
29 on my insight check, by the way, Bray.
I mean, they're telling the truth. They're being very earnest. You don't read anything off to them that would be you don't read anything off of them that would necessarily be construed as like hiding anything necessarily. The biggest thing you get is there's kind of, just judging off of the suspicions of the party, they are trying to find the best way to assuage fears, so to speak, and are maybe are and they're trying to balance patience with a bit of earnestness. Well, as far as what their goals are, as best you can tell.
With that, and because I very much enjoy the stage whisper going on between Gavin and Barca here. Rhiannon is gonna look Adanashti like dead in the eye and just, if you wish to minimize any likelihood of us being upset and maximize any chance of you getting what you want, you should do what you said you were going to and be direct with us and very frank. Context is helpful, but in the end, our questions are not being answered, and right now we need answers more than we need diplomacy. What exactly is it that you want? Specifically, what are you asking us for?
We fear for Zaya's safety.
I gather that.
And admittedly, we are in a God damn it, Brian is Adanashti speaks with intelligence. Brian is freaking boil words.
English hard.
Words hard. Yeah. There is an idea. Unprecedented as it were, but we have a potential idea that if you
quickly, you can probably get it. It's on the other. It was on the other side last time.
And kind of gestures to the group, and Zaya are willing.
Well, do your best.
May help to protect her from being destroyed by the Dreaming Dark. However, as I said, it is not something that will be done lightly, and ultimately only if you're willing. And Adanashti gestures kind of towards Zaya. I would. part of the reason why I was trying to explain, apparently not well, why it is so important to we Kalashtar, is that being that Zaya has been the first of our kind to come into this world in untold millennia, she is hope. She is a hope that not only can we survive, but potentially grow.
Barca Theater whispers to Gavin. It sounds like they think they can take better care of Zaya than us, but what makes them think that?
We think, and again,
Arrogance.
full stage whisper. I think they are implying that they can take better care of Zaya than we can, but at this point, I haven't actually seen any measure of proof of that.
I am not saying that, nor would I want to relieve you of your duties.
Then what exactly are you saying? Rhiannon is trying to be very careful with tone, and I don't know if it's coming across from Phoenix because I am in an enormous amount of pain.
Sure.
So just understand that, like, Rhiannon is trying to match the earnestness and balance that with, like, but Zaya's our family, so we will absolutely cut a bitch if you try to fuck with her type of energy.
Balance the Grog and Scanlan show over here.
Yes.
If you
You feel the heat going up.
Ember, might be a good time to cast Calm Emotions on yourself.
I feel that's premature at this point.
Okay. I think I'm going to clear the air a little bit here. I need you, Avanashti, to just listen for a second. We've had the stakes explained to us 6 ways to Christmas. We have had people telling us what is and is not going to be in the best interest of ourselves and Zaya for a really long time. So while I very much appreciate that you were being patient and earnest in all of this, our trust is not going to be earned easily and not soon. What is your plan regarding Zaya if he gestures to Zaya, if she decides that she wants to stay?
Or if she decides that she will go along with whatever your plan is. And whose idea was it? Was it yours or was it someone else's idea? We would very much like more details about what this plan is.
Let's stick with what is the plan for now. They seem to be having enough trouble answering that.
Well, that is why I asked you what your future goals are, as ultimately you, as Zaya's guardians, as well as Zaya herself,
You said there was...
have the option to go wherever they like. I'm sorry, but I got 5-on-1 dogpiling me every time I try to say something, so you notice she's getting a little terse this time around. Pardon me.
Okay, what's the big bad that wants Zaya that you're scared of? The dark people, the dark...
The dreaming dark.
The dreaming dark.
The dreaming dark.
They're the bad quarry, for the lack of...
What if we go save Tia and make it our mission to make Zaya forever safe by going after the dark dreamers?
Admittedly, that is a possibility, and I imagine you'd gather many of our kind to your cause, if that is the route you decided to go. But that would also endanger Zaya very much, trying to take them head on, I would imagine. And their numbers are much more than our own. To address your previous question of what ideas we have, being that this has been an unprecedented event, having a new quarry spirit in the world, the idea had been postulated amongst some of the elders from around Adar about possibly finding more hosts for Zaya to potentially split her essence, so to speak, much like the essence of the quarry spirits that are in us. And you see Adanashi gestures towards Amaya and Katari and themselves. So that, Ilyana forbid something should happen, Zaya's spirit is not lost to this world.
I think Gavin.
Barca has a question.
Go ahead.
When you say split, do you mean like she has little seedling babies, or like you're trying to split up a steak?
That's a very good question. Zaya, so there are different quarry spirits, and from the sounds of it, you've faced more than a few, at least as far as the Dreaming Dark go. But there are, for lack of a better term, a special breed of quarry spirits, ones that have not been seen for, as I mentioned, millennia's millennias, that, like Zaya, were meant to be infused into these vessels. Only very special, this type of quarry spirit can do so. At least as far as we know, they were. It's admittedly, even we don't necessarily all know all the details since it's been so long ago. They've either been bred or to be that way. That being said, they were thought to have died out, again, said millennia ago, with the war versus the giants of the continent I believe you referred to as Zendrick. Which, again, thousands and thousands of years ago. Which is also why Zaya is very special, very important. I'm not 100% certain how this potential process would go, and I will admit, because it is something we have never done before. I mean, admittedly, the Clashtar becoming who we are was as much by a confluence of desperation and sheer dumb luck. I don't know exactly how this will turn out, and we would only do so if you, Zaya, were willing. That being said, if you're interested in doing this, we can call forth certain candidates and go through whatever process you would like in terms of, I don't know, interviewing, for lack of a better term. I imagine no one, of course, would be chosen without Zaya's consent. This is not we are not in any way, shape, or form wanting to force this upon you. Lord knows from what you have described of your adventures and trials, many things have been forced upon you already. And if you decide not to go this route, realize that the people of Adar are your allies and will support you.
Even if you don't get what you want.
What I want is immaterial. If doing so co-ops or corrupts the very reason why we are here. We don't force people to do things, no matter what you may have heard. And
There are other ways than by force.
Ember gets up. You see her hair is absolutely white and she is pissed. You are still wanting to experiment on her. Fuck that. I leave.
Do you have any... Are you basing this all on conjecture? Would this be an experiment? Or do you have recollection of or records that which we could take a look at? Or I want to help you. I understand at least a little bit of where you're coming from. But I am not going to compromise Zaya's safety and ability to choose for herself. Nor do I want her to feel manipulated into making a decision that could potentially be extremely dangerous for her. Regardless of whatever candidates you may have. And at candidates, Rhiannon will look over at Callan. And then back at Adonashti.
I would be lying if saying that the potential process would be without risk. Again, this has never been done before. I understand. If you need time to think about this to see if it's even something you'd want to do. Again, it is your choice. Well, ultimately, Zaya, it's your choice. Again, if you decide not to go this route, we will still support you as a people.
As a people.
After that enlightening conversation.
Well, again, she is the hope for our people, so yes. As devoted as you are to her on a personal level, we are as much also on a spiritual level.
I know that.
As loving as this conversation has been, I think it might behoove us to go back to our ship and have a conversation.
Understandable. We will leave you to be. If you wish to discuss with me or anyone else further, please don't hesitate. But we will leave you be with Zaya. I would ask, as only a thing, please, if you are going to leave, let us know before you go.
I think we can extend you that courtesy.
Very well then.
Rhiannon will get up and kind of link arms again with Zaya and just sort of, like nod respectfully at Adanashti. And
I walk over to the craft services table. I open my bag and just shove it all in.
Okay.
And I head to the ship.
Yes.
All right. You return back to the ship without incident.
I
and
am
in
looking
fact-
for Ember on the way. I'm hoping they're heading back. She's heading back to the ship.
Oh, there is a flame
You can
trail that
see
you
her,
can
yeah.
fucking follow.
It's like watching Starfire from DC
every, like-
Comics.
Like every 100 feet or so, there's like this radius of nothing, and then it starts back up again. Because it's every time I cast like calm emotions,
You
And
probably
then
see
my anger just bursts through it,
these sort of
and then I
sooty
try again,
footprints.
and it bursts.
Yeah, these sooty footprints that get darker and darker the closer you get to Ember as you're catching up, and then the last couple of footprints are actually still probably on fire.
While we're walking, Barca still in theater whisper mode with Gavin for some reason. If Barca's voice in his head is Riri's, what's the voice in Ember's head?
If I were to speculate, I'd say probably Ember.
My knee-jerk reaction was Trogdor the Burninator, but that works.
And had that been a canonical thing in game, that probably would have been my answer.
Okay,
Probably just Ember, just louder and angrier than she usually is.
but that's what Barca feels like his inner voice is.
Ember, louder and angrier than she usually is?
No. Well, no, Barca's just confused now.
That's all right. The voice inside my head is mostly just screaming at me all of the time to shut the fuck up. I mostly ignore it.
Is that also Riri's voice?
Sometimes. Oftentimes. Yeah, pretty much.
For a quiet person, Riri's got a loud voice. Still theater whispering, by the way.
None of this is a mystery to anybody.
So it's probably like Gavin and Barca are kind of like leading the group having this discussion. Rhiannon and Zaya are kind of, again, sort of arm in arm, sort of walking. And Amaya, as you're kind of pulling up to get next to Zaya as well, you see your sister just kind of puts her hand on your shoulder just to kind of get your attention to maybe hold back slightly, and then just kind of walks next to you and you see she just kind of looks over at you and goes, "Oh, that was a mindfuck."
It was no less than what I expected.
Well, for whatever it's worth, I'm with you.
I thank you. Ultimately, this is a decision for Zaya. I will explain to her her options as best I can. If she wishes my opinion, I will certainly give it. But I will be taking her side, whatever she chooses.
Fair enough. Don't let Riri know, though. I kind of like it. I like seeing her feisty.
Sorry about that. My sound went all wonky. You're number one. Yeah, I think, good. Wise thing to be. You don't have a jacket?
I walked here back. I walked to the car by the parking lot. Ooh. Oh, yeah.
You want to wear a very, very long sleeve?
Sure. Wow, we sort of did it. That's just good.
Real quick, just going to interject. I have to usher my kids out the door. Can we take a break here? Cool. All right. All right, folks, we will be back very shortly. I love that we did better when we didn't set a time limit than we do when we do set a time limit. Because we're always like, be back in 10 minutes, and then like half an hour later, I showed her. It's not half an hour. Right? It really does. We are live again, folks. Well, live. We're somebody really needs to explain that specific delineation to Gavin because he was getting pissed, but he didn't know why. Because again, high int, low wisdom, like logical logic. Why? What are you trying to say, Darren? No. This has to happen. You understand that this has to happen because if there's nothing else that has ever been made clear, it's that Gavin should definitely never ever try to explain things to Barca, but still absolutely tries. Gavin explains off camera.
It's almost like the person sort of separates and splits into two, although one's kind of an apparition a little bit, because the Echo Knight seems very Kalashtar-y.
It really does.
Which I could totally see. And then you do see, and so I mean, there's a couple of different aspects, and so like each of these different warrior types is training probably like 3 to 4 individuals. It's a lot less like a military regiment and more of a, still very much like a mentor-mentee kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of interesting. Sorry, I just want to see if that is something I need to look at. No, it's not. Haha, yay. Okay, great.
He'll get Callan's attention, like when there's a, like, obviously she's not going to charge in while he's in the middle of
sure.
teaching, but just kind of like and waits for him.
And he, he's like, all right, you guys, now go ahead and run down to the valley and help grab the harvest, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, and it's like, strong mind, strong body. But most importantly, strong legs. And then, and you see and you see as he says that, as they start running off, he kind of gives you a little wink as he, is like stern to them, and then kind of comes
yeah.
And, and you see has like a little rag where he's kind of wiping off the sweat,
Mm-hmm.
Like, hello.
Hi. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting.
Oh no. I mean, we. The training and learning is ongoing, and quite frankly, I needed a break anyway.
Well, good. I'm glad to give you an excuse to take one then.
And he kind of gestures over to like a stone bench or something.
Yeah.
Kind of on
Awesome. She'll go sit and just. We had talked yesterday about, or the day before? I don't remember. Time is very weird after having been inside that thing. We talked about finishing our conversation, and after this morning, I thought that maybe it was a good time, or maybe it's a horrible time. I don't.
No, I'm willing to discuss things. Sure.
I'm curious why you were there this morning, the meeting with Adanashti.
Oh, well. So I am, now that I'm back here, I am, well, probably the most senior member of what would be our shadow hunters, shadow slayers, whatever verbiage you want to use on that, depending on how you look at things. As Mirashti may have told you, or your other Clash Star friends, of course. So now that I am back, my duties are to effectively manage the training of the next generations, much like Adanashti, who's, well, more of the spiritual aspect, much like yourself, I see, handles that side of it. So it's effectively we're the two elders of this, or see, I shouldn't say elders. That makes me sound old. But we're the two most senior members for this temple, so it's in a lot of ways are running this location is very much a partnership. So that is why I was there.
What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, when I was younger, because he's probably in his 40s.
I can practically hear the bones creaking already. Continue.
Rude.
He gives you a little stink eye on that, but
Yeah.
it's like, well,
She just kind of like elbows him a little playfully, like.
when I was much younger, and say more devoted to the cause, I probably would have been much more forceful on the approach. To be quite honest, as it would seem to be the only way to keep her protected and, well, for lack of a better term, in-house, if you want to, I guess, give a word for it.
I understand that very much.
As someone who has been out in the wide world, I can't say that I wouldn't encourage the choice, but it's a hell of a choice to make. I mean, like Adanashti said, originally the Kalashtar, the quarry spirits made a pact with the humans to inhabit them as hosts. And it was only through, well, let's just say when you're on the mountainside in those cold, windy nights, things happen. But it was almost by accident that our quarry spirits were able to be sort of, I don't know, disseminated. Adanashti has the verbiage. I don't, split up amongst multiple hosts.
I mean, there are plenty of things to do in the cold, but that's neither here nor there. What, when she speaks of these candidates, what exactly does that mean?
Well, granted, everything she's discussed about potentially doing this, I don't know if you want to call it ritual or what have you, but it's all kind of, I mean, admittedly, there are aspects of it that we just don't know because it literally is the first time we'd be trying to do this. We've never really... Her saying it was unprecedented was, or they're saying it was unprecedented was a pretty much a... Well...
That's what confuses me, though, because isn't the whole point of splitting the quarry spirit to maintain its knowledge and memory and insight and...
Yes, I mean...
Then what a... Anyone who has a spirit from one of the quarry that did that, wouldn't they know how their spirit, they're a host who did that? Or wouldn't I don't understand how you can't know how it works.
Well, not the hosts or the potential candidates would be from those humans that live in our nation.
No, I
Not
mean,
everybody who lives in Adar is a Kalashtar.
no, I mean how Adanashti and others don't know how the ritual works.
That you'd have to ask Adanashti. Admittedly,
Yes, but she doesn't. They don't give me direct answers, and you at least are very much more a practical person.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I don't know if they fully know. I mean, this is the first time anything like this has occurred with our people, so we're all treading on thin ice, so to speak. No one really knows how thick it is. I imagine Adanashti being a healer and a bit of our spiritual guide. Tried to soften the blow as best they could. I think
several of us knew it was coming.
I think they are worried that if you know all the amount of uncertainty that, more than they've already shared, that that would be a factor in whatever.
That it would scare us away, and it certainly has the potential to, but it's frustrating feeling like we can't get a straight answer even though we're asking for it,
Yeah, that's fair.
I have a personal question that I hope isn't insensitive. You've been very patient with me. Would you be considered a candidate for Zaya to make the choice to stay? Is that something that you would want?
I would be open to the idea, but honestly, if Zaya goes this route, I imagine the candidates would have to prove themselves to Zaya. Don't get me wrong, Adanashi would definitely encourage this move, with our hopes being that if we can spread Zaya's essence, so to speak, to several hosts, then if one host, God forbid, should be killed, Zaya would still survive. But who the hosts are, that's really up to
Zaya.
Up to Zaya.
How many hosts does a core spirit usually split into?
Well, it's not so much as a numeric value. Like, when we first came, well, I say we, even though I only know of it in memories and whatnot, but when the Quarry came, it was it's hard to explain. It's much like I'd almost say sort of, I don't know. It's hard to talk about spiritual stuff. I'm not really the guy for this. I mean, honestly, you might want to talk to Adanashti about it. They might have some more information, but
yeah.
But what?
Well, I was on my way to the temple, and then I got very distracted by you, and it's really not my fault, so. You fight well. Remind me not to ever piss you off.
I see you and your group being here is unsurprisingly going to be trouble.
I have no idea what you could mean. She'll lean over and she'll lean in to kiss him like right next to his mouth, like not on his mouth, but not on his cheek either. And just sort of like do the lingering hand on the shoulder as she kind of gives him a wink and then heads toward the temple to talk to Adanashti in what will probably be an extremely frustrating conversation.
Okay.
But
before we dive
Trying to
into
fuck Narashti's Kalashtar daddy?
ooh, he's hot though. She'd be into it. Maybe? I don't know. Everyone's fuck a minotaur. Are you really gonna be mad about Rhiannon potentially
Man, I just think it's
hooking
funny.
Narashti?
I'm not gonna
I
lie.
think she's just trying to.
Daddy.
Yeah, I think she's just trying to call him Kalashtar Daddy. I think that's.
Okay.
Mhm.
See, now in my head,
That's that's
Callan is fully played by Pedro Pascal, and there is nothing you can do to convince me otherwise.
okay. Well, now
Ooh,
she's
he's a
definitely
Cali
gonna
dad?
try to fuck
Caddy
him.
daddy?
Call him daddy.
Orca totally understands wanting to
Call
fuck a
him daddy.
minotaur. I'm just saying, you know.
He's a good-looking minotaur. Go Emperor.
Anywho'sville, I'm sorry for interrupting. Continue.
I just want to, before I necessarily dive into with
No, I wanna-
Adanashti, is there anything else anyone wants to do at this time? Because we can kind of cut back and forth. If otherwise, I will push forward.
Hi. Ember is still in her room.
Okay. Yep.
And she has slowly calmed down.
Okay. I will say there's a tentative
But
little
now
knock at your door.
What?
Is your door locked or is it open?
It's not locked.
Okay. You see it crack open just a hair, and you see Wanda with Tulio and Thrylila, like their heads like almost like one on top of the other, just kind
Just
of
full
peering.
three stooging it. All right.
Yeah, fully Three Stooging it. Hey, boss. Captain boss.
Yes.
And they kind of crack the door open a little bit more. It's like, and you see they are literally like Wanda's on the bottom, like Tulio is kind of standing with his feet sort of on her hips and hands on his shoulders, and then you see Thrylila is actually sort of like on his shoulders, but like bent over so she can get her head low enough to kind of be. It's this weird totem pole amalgamation of goblin. They're very bendy. It's like we just wanted to check in on you and see you seemed kind of angry. And anyway, just wanted to see how you're doing. If there's anything we can do to help. Then you see Wanda like kind of jumps forward, causing the other two to collapse into a pile, and goes, "We'll burn this place to the ground!" But not Zaya place, like the mountain, I mean, we got the thorn launchers ready.
I appreciate that, you three, but I just need a little time right now. And I'm going to gently shoo them out of my room and close the door behind me.
Okay.
Or, I close the door on them. I'm still in my room.
Gotcha.
I am going to then slide down onto the floor and just start sobbing. And just say, "Please, Zaya, I'm begging you. Please don't do this. You don't know what it's like to be experimented on and to have everything pinned on you. Please, please, please don't."
You don't necessarily get a verbal response, so to speak, but you do see Zaya kind of form into her dryad body, kind of sitting next to you. And you see she wraps her arms around you and just kind of doesn't really say anything, just kind of sits there and holds you.
Sorry, Zaya, but I know this is your decision, and I do support you. But if you choose to be their pawn, I can't watch. I'm sorry. I can't. Do you see? You see all my cracks? This is what happens. Right? I can't watch. I can't.
And she doesn't say anything. She just squeezes you tight in her arms. She's kind of sobbing right next to you, like just with everything that's happened recently, just all kind of hitting her, plus how you're feeling. She just holds you tight. And the two of you just kind of hold on to each other. have a what some people would call a good cry.
Yes.
So,
I'm during all of this, I think Gavin is going to go actually find Amaya.
okay.
Where would I find Amaya, Amaya?
Maya would probably be just meditating in her quarters if there wasn't any actual work to be done.
Yeah, probably knock on your door then.
Maya will answer.
Got a sec?
Sure. What's up?
Rhiannon detailed a little bit why she was so frustrated with Avanashi's pitch. And I realized that was one of the reasons why I was kind of pissed off at the whole situation. They're trying to appeal to the emotional side of things and not giving us hard and fast rules, and this is where I'm struggling. Not hard and fast, like logical points. And this is where I'm struggling. I thought the point of believing in something was that it wasn't necessarily logical.
Hmm. There is nothing wrong with believing in something illogical, as long as it is something that one chooses to believe themselves. When asking someone else to believe something illogical, that is where problems occur. What they are asking, or perhaps I should say what they are really hoping for, is that we will make our choice. Zaya will make her choice based on their beliefs and not our logic.
That's a hell of a Hail Mary. Sorry, you probably would not use that terminology, but that's fantasy Hail Mary.
Right. Whatever the equivalent in Eberron football is.
Yeah, whatever the equivalent of that. Um, that is a hell of a stretch.
Perhaps. As they've said, they have no wish to harm Zaya. They wish for her to remain their hope. If something happens to her one way or another, that hope is lost or harmed. But it is not Zaya's future that they truly have in mind. It is their hope. What they see is not truly her, but a symbol.
The thing that I am struggling with more than anything else. I mean, I'm an academic. I don't put my faith in things that I can't prove. I guess other than all of you. But Avanashi, during the course of that conversation, responded to a question actually from Barca that is kind of forcing me to recontextualize a couple of things. And I was hoping maybe you could share a little, maybe spread a little light on this for me, no pun intended.
If I can, I'll certainly do so.
When Barca suggested that we take on the Dreaming Dark, Avanashi responded as if that were possible. Now, in my head, up until this point, my understanding of what the Dreaming Dark is has been extremely limited because I mean, I didn't grow up with this. I didn't have this, I guess, looming over my head. But I'd always kind of put them in the same category as like the gods, where tilting at a deity is just going to get you at best swatted. But when Avanashti didn't dismiss that idea out of hand, it made me rethink some things. And honestly, for me to ask this question, is that possible?
All right, I'm going to try to do this in character. So, Mr. Game Meister, if I start getting details wrong, please jump in and correct me. But
Very well.
I don't know if I would say that the Dreaming Dark is exactly like a god, but think more the ruler of another plane. If we were to take on the king of the plane of fire, that would be something more akin to taking on the Dreaming Dark.
So rough, but achievable.
Theoretically. Now,
I mean, maybe not
Dreaming
achievable
Dark
by
has...
us specifically, but achievable.
It is theoretically possible, yes. The plane of dreams has gone through a number of ages so far, and the Dreaming Dark is basically the current ruler, high power of the current age. So it is not without precedent that what the dream plane is and who controls it has changed. Whether or not, yeah.
I will add this too. There is a belief among the Kalashtar that maintaining the light of Ilyana will eventually bring the end of the dark.
And I will interject that into the conversation.
However, admittedly, that's a bit more like saying that they're, like much like maybe comparing it to, say, the Christian faith of saying that, the end times will appear eventually. It's probably kind of on that sort of scale.
Right.
As far as much not philosophical, much as a allegory as it is, and more about belief than like cold hard fact, if that, and faith.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense.
That's about the biggest thing I could compare it to based on my limited knowledge of religions other than what I was originally raised up in.
Fair. So, theoretically, it is possible. And more or less, that is what the Kalashtar people and the original Quarry Spirits were ultimately hoping to achieve. Whether that will be possible by us or even in our lifetimes, that I could not say.
I'm not a wise man, but I am a smart man. And I know that we can't keep running forever. So regardless of what Zaya decides to do, and I'm going to have yours and her back the entire way, regardless of what Zaya decides to do, we are going to need to figure something out that isn't running.
I agree.
I don't know what that's going to look like, But if I'm being honest, kind of like Barker's plan.
Well, I think one way or another that is basically going to wind up being Zaya's future, whether that is here in this form, whether that is with us, whether that is as the other quarry spirits spread throughout multiple other hosts. Anyone's guess, I suppose. The way I see it, the best that I can do, the best that we can do, is try to make sure that she is prepared for that to happen.
All of this. My father would have hated this. Father always told me that facts are facts. And that books don't lie.
Mm.
Imagine my shock when I discovered that books don't lie, but the people that write them do.
Now that is indeed very wise.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but whatever happens next, if it means we're running at a godlike king of a dream realm, or running for the rest of our lives, I'm here for it.
Well, if Zaya chooses to stay in her current form here, I imagine that we will likely continue running for a while longer, but if there comes a time where we believe that there is a chance we can defeat it, I imagine all of us here would be willing to take that shot.
No, we still gotta go rescue Tia.
Oh, of course. We're not just going to run and hide. We'll do plenty of other things.
All right, I'm gonna go meditate.
A wise choice.
Oh, I definitely mean masturbate. I can't sit still that long, and he leaves.
Well, sometimes that too can bring a bit of clarity. She'll just kind of close the door behind her.
She's not wrong.
The question
Nothing
is,
like
how
rubbing
long
one
does
out to
Gavin
ground
take?
yourself.
How long does Gavin take after closing the door and starting to walk away before his brain goes, huh?
Because it came from Amaya, I think he's fully back in his room, where he's like, "Wait, what?"
Fair.
Barca is gonna go up to the main wall that he's done many times, and he's gonna put his hand on the wall and say, "Hey Zaya, can you hear me?"
You hear her. It's like, I can hear you, buddy.
I know you're got some things you're pondering, but Barca's been wondering ever since you were kind of absent and the ship was just solid without you. Barca's been worried about something. He's wondering if is my candy still on the ship?
That is a very important question.
It
I
is.
love Barca.
And you
Thank you.
hear a little well, you can feel in your mind this kind of warm smile, and sure enough, the little hole that you have Zaya form open every once in a while when you need to get to your candy, that it is indeed there. I'm gonna say pick a go ahead and pick even or odd.
Even.
You do see, however, that there is a little pool of water, which smells a little briny, like maybe some of the seawater had gotten in, and so you see there is a kind of a syrupy mix at the bottom with some with a mesh of like sort of waxy papers that are all kind of sort of, not quite turned into a pulp, because there is still a little bit of waxiness, but it's kind of congealed into this sort of amalgam of sort of waxy paperish paste, floating or sunken into this sort of small syrupy bowl, maybe about of sweet smelling sugary water.
Not a problem. Barca just reaches in, gets a big old paw full, and just starts licking it off his fur.
I mean, it tastes sweet, tastes great. And
Awesome.
actually, let's see. How long ago did you probably access this?
It's been a minute.
I'd say even mildly fermented at this point.
Well, if that's the case, if I even think it somewhat has like a alcohol-y taste to it, I'll clean the bin out.
Okay.
And then at the end of it, Barca, I'll just be like, "Thank you, Zaya. You're good friend, and I'm sorry about your tendril."
It's okay, buddy. I know you didn't mean to hurt it, and I'm growing one back, so it'll just take me a little bit of time, and it'll be back.
Okay, good. All right, you can go back to pondering your existence in life and whatnot.
Love you, Barca.
Love you too, Zaya. I go sit on the bow of the ship and eat my fermented candy, slop off of my paws and hands.
Okay. I mean, the good news is you have a lot of fur, so like you're actually able to like you have to kind of go through strings of fur and stuff that are all kind of like it's like slurping up syrup, kind of, but.
I imagine for Barca this too, if anybody sees what's going on, it's like a dog in peanut butter. Like it's just getting everywhere. He's rolling around in it. He's licking the air. Like just kind of a weird thing you see him doing at the front of the ship.
And probably within like maybe 10 minutes of doing so, you see there's a ring of goblins around you that are just like, "Hey, Captain, how's it going?"
He'll just stop him and be like, "Chieftain. Barca's a chieftain."
Sorry, Chieftain, Captain, Head of Security. Sorry, there's a lot of titles. We apologize.
There's literally 2 titles, but okay.
And if they weren't the goblins that heard that, they would be impressed that you know how to count.
I know. I just realized that, but I figured he can count to. He can count to 2. Yeah.
Well, when you're not thinking about it, you can probably count just fine. It's when you try to put your effort to it that's like, ugh.
Although his hands are covered in candy, so he might not be able to count at this point.
That's fair. But you see, they all kind of like, wow, that looks interesting. What do you got there? And so you see they got this sort of like, we know better than to like dogpile on you, but if you're willing to share, we would totally be happy to help you with the sugary goodness that is the whatever it is you have in your hands that smells delicious.
He grabs that one goblin, kind of like the collar, and brings him up to his face, and then just because he's got candy sticking all down his chest, just shoves that goblin in his chest and has him start. If he wants candy, go for it.
And this is probably that goblin's best motorboating that goblin has ever done.
Actually, he'll just lay down and just be like, all right, guys, go for it. You've earned it.
So for any artistic fans that are out there, please, dear God in heaven, I would love to see the image of the syrupy coated Barca getting motorboated by a bunch of goblins.
That's wonderful.
That's the Tylenol 3 coating talking, friends. All right.
There you go.
You.
So then we will.
That's good stuff.
I do have one. I do have one final thing, and I will be.
Yes,
brief.
yes.
I think Gavin does go back to his room, does the wait what moment, and kind of thinks about it for a second, and then, fucking meditation. He turns around and he actually walks across the hall and he goes to Ember's room and he knocks on the door.
Okay.
If he went to Rhiannon's room, I would have
Amber
been like,
opens
oh, looking
up-
for some group meditation.
Amber opens up the door.
And
but
Gavin, you
still
do see,
crying.
and you do see Zaya is kind of huddled with Ember. They're both kind of sitting on the floor with their backs come to the wall, kind of hugging and holding each other. You see they are both. They have both been crying a bit. I'd almost say ugly crying, but both of them have decent charisma, so they're not really ugly crying. They're just...
Hey, even a high charisma can ugly cry. Do not underestimate the power of a good ugly cry.
It's fair.
Gavin kind of takes this in. I was going to meditate, but I'm not good at doing those things alone. Cuddle puddle?
And Ember just holds her arms up.
Zaya does too, and yeah, just...
Yeah, cuddle puddle. That happens.
That's fair.
It's it.
All right. So, Rhiannon, we will return back to you then. As all of this is kind of going on with the ship at different time periods, because, you know...
Mm-hmm. Wibbly wobbly.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. You enter into the temple, and you see there are several Kalashtar that are in the big kind of cavernous room with the extremely large deep crystal, kind of the resonance crystal. You know, there is a group that is sitting kind of cross-legged, specifically surrounding the crystal. But you see there are other Kalashtar that that do come in and sit down on like a kind of a rug or something along those lines, and are kind of also cross-legged and just kind of doing their meditations. And you see Adanashti is one of them.
I'll just try to signal her. Actually, if I can see her and she's within 120 feet of me, I'll use message
Okay.
to just let her know that I'm here if she would like to, if she has time to speak with me,
Okay.
and that I have some questions.
And you see they do get up, kind of stand up and kind of turn around and head towards the temple, and you hear in your mind, I would be happy to speak with you.
Thank you so much.
And you get sort of this mental sort of gesture kind of back towards their training little kind of...
Like a little cubby.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll meet them back there.
Okay.
I'm inclined to apologize for this morning, but I am not going to. And I don't mean any offense by that, but I think you understand that our reactions, including Ember's, come from a number of things in our own background and the things that we've faced together over the last several months. And we want to make sure that whatever happens with Zaya, that it truly is Zaya's choice and that she doesn't feel compelled. I appreciate very much that you would not force her. But there are other ways to compel someone to do something they're not comfortable with. And carrying the weight of an entire people's hope is a very heavy thing, and I'm worried for her. And I trust that you understand our good intentions, even when we may be a little bit prickly.
If I understand, admittedly, what Narashti has told me about your group, I understand that your dynamic is a bit
Chaotic?
yes.
Yes. Just a bit.
I understand your fears, and I wish that mere words could express to you our sincerity. But understandably, knowing only a little of what you have gone through, I can understand that trust needs to be earned.
Yeah.
May I ask if you would be willing? Would you be... Well, if I may ask two questions.
Sure.
The first is, would you be willing to tell me more about your travels?
Within reason.
And secondly, would you tell me if you've heard anything recently from Narashti?
I actually checked in with her not very long ago. She and her girlfriend were with a mutual friend of ours, trying to seek better ways of protecting one from the inspired, from possession. She's doing all right. She's very strong. We missed her terribly.
She is missed. While we, as the saying goes, while it takes a village, I very much regard her as a daughter.
I think she would be very honored to hear that.
I worry about her so much.
And you understand why we worry about Zaya.
Of course. Of course.
How would you feel? What would your choice be for your daughter if someone were asking of your daughter what you're asking of ours? Full of risk, full of unknown, full of uncertainty. For a country not your own, for a people not your own. Even though Amaya is a Kalashtar, she wasn't raised among you.
Perhaps then we need to give you and Zaya all of you for that matter time to learn. We are not, while I only know small snippets through a few things Katari has said, the few things she was willing to share, it saddens me to know that their upbringing was
The way that it was.
what it was. We are not like that.
I know. I do.
Then perhaps with time we will show you.
I would like that very much.
I have been told, shown from some of those around me that you are a devotee.
I am.
Would you be willing to talk more about it?
I would be happy to. And Rhiannon genuinely smiles. I would be very happy to. I know some conversations are going on board the ship, and I will need to return at some point, but I have some time for now. I want to be very clear that I will support Zaya in whatever choice she makes, regardless of what the choice is, regardless of how other crewmates feel about it, regardless of how you or your people feel about it. If Zaya goes through with this and she chooses to stay, I would like to ask a favor, knowing that it is only presumptuous of me to do so.
I admit I'm quite curious. What, provided those things happen, what favor would you ask of us? Or of me?
I'm gonna DM it to you.
Okay. Are you doing the G-chat, or are you doing okay. Interesting. Well, I see nothing wrong with that. However, it's not my choice
I know.
ultimately to make.
Yes. Thank you. What do you want to know about blah blah blah? And there's much exposition. Unless there's any particular question.
And they proceed to kind of go down the path of first, tell me who taught you about it, and you get a sense every once in a while when you talk about what do I have it in my notes here? When you talk about I've got their name.
Right, I'm like, I feel like it's like Hannibal Gore.
So Qatar? No, yeah. Oh, Hannibal.
Okay, ha! I was right. Okay, I thought it was.
And you get the sense that Aranashi tends to giggle a bit and is like, while I don't know the man personally, I have had many philosophical debate with those of his similar bond.
Sounds like there are quite a few stories there.
Oh, there are, and so probably for the next hour or so, Adnashi kind of, you go back and forth a bit as far as just talking about your experiences in general, or not in general, but your experiences specifically.
Oh, and Havakad, yeah.
Havakad, yeah, and you get the sense to I'd say the way Adanashti goes about it, which is very interesting, is it isn't so much of a tell me your philosophies and I will argue mine. It's more of a kind of flows back and forth between, so tell me about things that happen to describe, tell me about the location. It's like, did you happen to know this about the religion that does this or this and that? And so they do a very good job of sort of weaving it kind of back and forth into the conversation without it necessarily feeling preachy.
Right. Yeah.
Or you know, way more of a kind of a talk of almost like a more of from a philosophical standpoint and definitely a discussion. And you know, whether or not you necessarily feel suspicious towards them, you know, you definitely get the sense that they know how to kind of tell a good yarn, as well as and a lot of, you know, communication wise, so to speak, for lack of a better term.
At some point, Rhiannon would try to kind of casually ask about Callan.
Okay.
Just, you know, like along the lines of like, you know, does he have family? Does he have a spouse? Does he have a... Can I tap that?
Admittedly,
Not that question.
Adanashti grins a bit and is like, he does not have a spouse. And while there may have been romances in the past, admittedly he stays pretty devoted to his job. You get the sense, as far as a undertone from that Adanashti and he may have had a romance in the past. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
For what that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get necessarily like a sense of like possessiveness or anything.
Right.
Like whatever they had, it's you know, it's either has taken place and is no longer necessarily a thing, or is one of those things where it's like I don't know, catching up with an old flame after however much time, you know, that kind of history sort of thing to it, for lack of a better term. But you see, and I was just like, but I do not believe he's currently entangled with anyone at the moment. And Ananasha just kind of gives you a shit-eating grin. Would you like some tea?
Yes, thank you so much. I'll wrap the conversation up and head back up to the ship.
Okay. So you get back. And for the most part, well, you see Barca is sort of kind of laying down on the deck, just kind of looking up at the sky, covered in glistening from all sorts of, like, you almost see like some little, maybe some small crystals here and there, but like a lot of weird sort of sticky, like his fur is kind of matted, and you see there's like a pile of goblins, like some of them are totally passed out on the sugar high. There's a couple there that are sort of like sleeping, but sort of like licking or gnawing at his fingers or his. And there's a few on his chest that are just kind of, you know, kind of. It's a little weird, and as you kind of tilt your head and look at that, you see Nikali, who's working on another kind of feathered cloak of some kind, just kind of looks over at them, looks at you, and just kind of smiles and shrugs, and then kind of continues going about.
She'll just sort of like clap him on the shoulder as she goes past and just, I had prestidigitation. I don't think even that would work at this point.
But otherwise, it seems pretty quiet for the most part.
Okay.
I'll say, I don't know if you're going down to your quarters, you will see at probably at some point you see Ember's door is probably partly open. You see Costello's actually kind of sort of standing sentry. Just kind of looks over at you and nods.
I nod back.
And you see the doors kind of partly open, and you see Gavin and Zaya and Ember are kind of fallen asleep a little bit in this sort of this cuddle puddle.
So cute. Is Gavin the filling of the sandwich, or is Gavin the bread, or like how is the cuddle puddle formatted?
I'm gonna propose this, and Ember can veto if she decides. As Gavin was there, sort of offering some measure of comfort to his very dear friend and the young woman that he very much views as like a daughter or possibly a little sister. I imagine that he would probably be propped up and kind of have like an arm around each of them. And if Ember wants to veto that, that's
Okay.
fine. But
Nope, no veto on that.
Rhiannon will.
Ember is in a very, very vulnerable state and lacking any flame or color other than the dark black.
Oh, seeing that, so like Rhiannon would kind of go to the door to kind of peek in.
And the door is open, like it's not.
Yeah. But kind of stepping around Costello.
Well, he's not standing necessarily in front of the doorway, but just kind of off to the side.
Gotcha. Seeing that Ember's flame is out, probably scares the bejesus out of Rhiannon, because the only time she's ever seen Ember's flame out before was when Ember was dead. So Rhiannon will can see Gavin's chest rise and fall, assuming that he breathes. But will
he does.
kind of rush in as quietly as possible so that she doesn't wake sleeping people. But she'll absolutely curl up around the back of Ember and try to make sure she's alive.
And Ember is breathing. Yep.
Okay. So she'll just kind of stay there, big spoon to Ember's little spoon.
Yep.
And just hold her. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a mixture of almost silent sobs at this point and just mumblings of we can't, I can't, we can't, I can't.
I think whenever the mumbling starts, even half asleep or whatever it is, I think Gavin would kind of without the flame, do you have hair or are you just bald?
Bald.
Okay, so I think Gavin is stroking your head.
The flame is my hair.
That's why I was asking the question. So I think like even when the muttering kind of starts up again, I think Gavin would be kind of stroking your head soothingly.
And I think I might call it a little bit early. I think this might be a good spot to just kind of leave her be for now, as everybody sort of. There's a lot of thoughts and probably a lot of discussion that's going to be happening, and as we're kind of nearing the end here, maybe that's a good place to pick up for next time. So.
Sure. At dawn we plan.
At dawn we plan and go shopping.
At noon we plan.
There you go.
Noon we plan.
At noon.
At noon 2 weeks from now we plan.
Exactly.
Indeed.
So
for us in real time, it'll be a week. For the rest of you, it'll be 2 weeks.
Yes.
True.
We had some
Technically.
scheduling shenanigans.
We did have some real life shit happen. It was a whole thing.
That's all right. We made it work.
Technically, we still have some real life shit.
Ooh.
Okay. Cool.
You should do it.
All right, friends. Well, thank you for joining us this week. It was a very emotionally charged and intense episode. I appreciate you all, and in lieu of the very emotionally charged episode, take care of each other, because I'm real sick of trying to take care of everybody. So, love you all, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye, folks.
Goodbye.